All right, here we go with another course lecture. This is from the Specialty Coffee Association courses pulled from the prior version 2020 to 2023 of howtocoffeepro.com. If you want to get the latest course updates, check out howtocoffeepro.com, go to sca.training, and we can start some of your online courses, coaching, and get you certified. Come to a class in person. We'll do the advanced, intermediate, and professional. I can't wait to connect with you, help you make life better using coffee and growing in coffee. All right, see you soon. So what is a coffee bean and what makes it specialty? What's all this talk about? We use the word coffee bean even though it's really not a vegetable. There's no green bean connotation. It's not a legume. It's not like a red bean or a pinto bean. The bean is really just kind of what it looks like, and so that's been a translation in English. But coffee beans are the seed of a fruit. And that fruit, if you want to Google coffee tree or coffee farms or coffee fruit, you'll find some beautiful pictures of these bushes that grow coffee cherries. And inside of that cherry are two seeds that grow. There should be two seeds that grow. And outside is fruit, and you pick them, So not totally unlike a blueberry, but the fruit does grow differently. It grows straight off of the branch. You'll see that there's this beautiful red or yellow or purple fruit that's growing on a coffee tree. So coffee beans are part of the fruit family because it's the seed of that coffee fruit. So once it's harvested from the tree, it needs to be removed. And once it's harvested from the tree as a cherry, the seed, the coffee beans, need to be removed from the fruit and then dried before they can be roasted and turned into coffee, which we all love and enjoy, and that's why we're in this class together. So let's talk real quick about coffee species. I'm not going to cover everything here, and you do need to study the content that's down below, the images, ask some questions in this slide and in the future slides so that we can make sure everything's clear. But basic botany, if you took this course in your high school courses, if you maybe had a botany course or a biology course that covered plants, you understand that there's a family of plants, and that's really broad. So a family of plants would be something like a small shrub-like tree that grows with a certain type of leaf and bears fruit with a certain type of flower with seeds inside of the fruit. And so that family for the coffee species is Rubiaceae. And Rubiaceae has some different species then, which are specifically part of the coffee species. You'll find other beautiful Rubiaceae species if you look up Wikipedia Rubiaceae. I recommend doing that. I actually found some new trees that I'd love to plant in my home and in my front yard if they grew there. But the main species that we're going to focus on are Arabica and Canephora robusta. So there's a third one that's mentioned in this course, and you do want to know just because of global coffee production, and that's Liberica. So in order of importance or discussion content is Arabica, Robusta, and Liberica. Arabica is an evolution of a couple different species within that family. And so we don't really talk about the Anthony and the eugenoids, although I have seen eugenoids more recently. But Arabica and Canephora robusta, as it's known, those are the two that we'll be focusing on. So as you work up the branches of this tree, you'll see the image there. This is a beautiful image from Cafe Imports. Thank you for the coffee family tree here. These different varieties, these different varieties, you got to get the language right. Family, species, varieties have evolved, both from natural selection as the plant has migrated and moved to new places, the flowers pollinate and create new seed, new offspring, new varieties. But they've also been propagated as people have traveled. they've taken their coffee plants with them around the world. And we'll discuss some of that in the coming slides and lectures in this course. But you can trace those trees and you can see some of the really interesting information here. So you need to understand especially the difference in Arabica and Robusta coffee and just in the way that it's grown and harvested in the world. So Arabica coffees are typically described as blue-green and more ovular in shape, more oval shaped, whereas Robusta coffees will be yellowish brown and more round in shape. And so here, according to my screen, if it transfers over the same, I have Arabica on my left and Robusta on my right. So the Arabica you can see here is more of a nice blue-green, kind of a soft yellow-green, whereas this is very clearly a yellow-brown, and that's Robusta. And again, this is a very round bean, whereas this is a very oval-shaped bean. This is a beautiful coffee from Ethiopia, from Saifa, and his coffees are fantastic. This is actually a very beautiful, I love a fine Robusta, and that is from Subus in India. This is a natural coffee, while this is a washed coffee. We're going to talk about processing methods and what is washed and what is natural, because that also contributes a lot to the color of the coffee bean. Arabica is increasingly more and more produced in the world, although with climate change and just global warming, depending on where you stand on the issue, it is more difficult to grow Arabica because it grows on mountains. And it has, it bears less fruit. It has more specific climate requirements than Robusta coffee does. Robusta will grow at lower elevations and in broader plantation-like settings. So Arabica and Robusta, somewhere between 60-70% Arabica and 30-40% Robusta, with a little Liberica growing wild, mostly in the Indonesia islands. So these coffees can be found, and more information can be found here in the lecture, as well as any individual research you'd like to do. We'll look at some of the different, we're not going to go much into varieties here, but I've got a Kenya AB coffee here, and this is a SL28. In Kenya, they have different varieties that they've grown as compared to, let's say, my Chinese coffee here. This is a beautiful coffee from Gaoshanghong, and this is a coffee from the Torch Curate Coffee Collective. It's a Catimor variety. Catimor is a really interesting coffee because if you look at it, it shows up on the Robusta-Canephora side of the coffee species tree up above, or rather up above where I've already scrolled down because I'm reading my notes. But it's 60% Arabica and 40% Robusta. It has kind of a mother on one side of the tree and a father on the other side of the tree. And so you get these qualities that help it to grow in China, in the Pu'er region. But this natural process coffee here from the same Torch family of roasters is a beautiful coffee. It has this sweetness and this body, which is actually really hard to find in Arabica coffees because there's a lot of the Robusta-Canephora influence in that Catimor variety. This is just all to say that when you go to a specialty shop or you see those coffee bags with all the descriptions, the elevation that they've grown at, the species or variety that is inside of the roasted bag that you're going to take home as a coffee fan, that actually has a big impact. Just like when you get apples that are harvested from a northern location where the temperatures are typically cooler and the elevation is higher, they will be sweeter, crisper, with higher acidity compared to the apples that are grown down south in hotter climates. This is a fruit, and so coffee can be understood in many of those ways. So what makes it specialty? I already introduced in the last slide that we'll be talking about the Specialty Coffee Association cupping form, right? So on this cupping form, we score the coffees, and any coffee to be considered specialty will be scored 80 points or higher. And you have to score according to the fragrance, aroma, acidity, flavor, body, sweetness, finish, balance. All of these things go into specialty coffee grading. So we're going to talk about specifically Arabica grading forms in the next video.